So obviously the offer they made, their opening offer, discount to premium, you guys were very quick to come out and reject it. Is there a level at which it would be acceptable for a full merger between these companies?
You know, from our standpoint, when you take a look at the sovereign risk of their assets, you take a look at some of their ESG performance that they've had historically, and the risk that Mark ran very successfully for a long time, 5 assets in Africa. This just is a much larger organization that he's running. He's still in the middle of actually integrating the Barrick Gold business together, running it under what his operating model is going forward. I think just exposing Newmont shareholders to all that risk, when we can work together, come up with the best from both our businesses in terms of how we shape a joint venture and how it can deliver best value for both shareholders, just seems to me to make a lot of sense.
And you've proposed a 45-55 split and 50-50 split on the operations in Nevada. Is that just an opening offer, and is there room to move?
Yeah, the 45-55 was based on consensus NAV numbers on the Nevada-related assets. So if there's things that don't make sense in there or we need to work through, we're more than happy to work through the negotiations on that. In terms of how it gets managed, we'd both appoint the key operating people, but at the end of the day, the voting on the day-to-day and how things operate, you know, is the person who ends up owning the majority economic interest, and in this case, it's Barrick.
Now, one of my smarter colleagues, David Fickling, wrote in a note this morning that one potential outcome here would be to put all of the Nevada assets into a new co, spin it off, and give some exposure to both Barrick and Newmont shareholders. Is that something that's on the table at this point?
We're open to different suggestions. The thing that doesn't do, though, is have the input. Once you spin it off, it doesn't have the input from our expertise in operating, you know, a global mining business and applying that on those assets. And same thing what Barrick might bring to that.
Already we're in this, I guess, place a week into this this debate between the two companies about what should be the outcome here, where it has got quite rough. You've had a bit of a war of words. Obviously, you called their bid desperate and bizarre. I think they've said some fairly unsavory things about the ability of you guys to run a successful business. But then I have this quote from Mark Bristow, the CEO over at Barrick, where he says he doesn't have a single solitary thing to say bad about you or Tom Palmer, the COO, president. And he said he hasn't met you, he doesn't know you. Isn't it strange that we're sort of in this very fractious position already, and yet he says we don't even know each other?
That's why I think it's important for us to sit down and work through the details and face-to-face work through it. When I shook his hand a week ago at the BMO conference, said we need to talk, and it's good he's reached out last night, and hopeful that we can get together here in the near term.
And in terms of what the shareholders are saying, obviously you do have quite significant cross-ownership of the two companies. What conversations have you been having with investors, and what would they like to see? You
know, the different shareholders we've talked with, and that's why I'm here in New York and in the East Coast over the next couple of days, is talking with shareholders about this. Got good feedback yesterday from one key shareholder who owns both of us, in fact, all three with Gold Corp as well. He'd really like to see us sit down at the table and work together to form a joint venture.